In this video, I'm going to be taking a quick look at this. It's a Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer, the first revision, although with the nicer keyboard. We'll get into that in a minute. It also has some sort of mod on it. So I'm going to be opening this up and trying to figure out what's inside of this thing, and we'll see if it still works. That's coming up right now on Retro Hack Shack After Hours. Well, hello everybody, and thanks for joining me once again on my second channel. Apparently I'm in a Tandy mode right now. I don't know what's going on. It's not on purpose. It's not Septandy, but I decided I'm not keeping all this stuff around just for Septandy and then do a bunch of videos. I'll have much more stuff to do in September when it comes to Septandy, but this stuff, for whatever reason, coincidence, I guess, is just falling in my lap, so to speak. So I found this computer on eBay and the price was reasonable, so I went ahead and got it, and it was a local pickup, so that saved me on shipping. And I may have mentioned this in some of my older videos, maybe long-term viewers will remember that this is actually the very first computer I ever owned, and it was this model as well. The TRS-80 Model 1 and Model 3 both had this silver color. This particular computer came out in 1980, I believe, and it also inherited that same design. And the TRS-80 line of computers were actually quite popular in 1980, which may explain why they didn't just call this the Radio Shack color computer. They called it the Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer. I think they wanted to pick up on the fact that this brand, the TRS-80 brand, was doing very well. The computers were selling very well. And so when they came up with this particular model, they wanted to make it more familiar to people that would come into the store. So they must have decided to stick with the TRS-80, I'm guessing, for that reason. One thing that's different about this particular computer compared to the other one that I own is this one has the nicer keyboard. Now, there were a number of computers in the early days that used that chiclet style keyboard. This wasn't the only one. The PC Junior, which came out actually later, I believe in late 83 or 1984, also had a chiclet keyboard initially. In fact, let me see, where did I put that? Oh yeah, here it is. So the Tommy Tudor computer, which I've been working on a video for, it's been kind of on the back shelf for almost a year now, but this particular computer also had a chiclet keyboard, although these keys are rubbery and not plastic like some of the other ones. It's not quite as awful to use as the original keyboard that was on the color computer, the first generation color computer. Tommy Tudor, I think, came out in Japan in 82 and hit the US and European markets in 83 for a very brief period of time. I don't think it was around for too long. If you want to see a video, if you want to see me finish the video on the Tommy Tudor, let me know in the comments below. But this color computer has a much nicer keyboard to type on. It feels like it has actual proper key switches, and there were upgrades sold for this computer that you could buy. So when we go in here, maybe we'll find some indication that this was either an official upgrade sold by Radio Shack or perhaps a third-party upgrade. It looks official to me with that red break key, but we'll find out in just a minute when we open this up. So of course, the other thing that caught my eye on this was there's obviously some sort of mod. The original color computer did not have these cables coming out a hole in the back of the computer. It had, and I assume these are for maybe video or audio, but we'll find out in a minute. But the original one just had an RF output in the back. Later models added an RCA jack that had composite video on it and a similar RCA jack for audio. So I believe that either came in the Model 2 or Model 3. Can't remember off the top of my head, but they had those. So it was a little bit easier to hook up to a proper monitor. This was introduced with the intention of being hooked up to a regular TV, and it has an RF out jack in the back. And I'm going to hook that up right now, and we'll see if this thing is actually working. Luckily, whoever did this mod didn't remove the RF output RCA jack back here, so that's good. And I noticed there's something rattling in here, and I believe this is also, yeah, it's missing a foot up here, so that's something we can easily rectify. But do you hear that? There's definitely something rattling in here that should not be rattling. Typically, these computers don't make that noise, but I'm guessing that's part of the mod. I went ahead and pulled out this CRT to test this out with because that's quick and easy. I've also used those LCD TVs that have a TV tuner still in them. I like to use those when hurting for space, but I prefer to use a real CRT when I'm using a system like this. It's not so great for filming because you get reflection and you also have to deal with the refresh rate on the CRT, but I still prefer to use a CRT whenever possible. Okay, TV is set to channel 3, and I don't remember if this, I think it did have a TV channel switcher on the back. Hopefully it's set to channel 3. Let's just go ahead and turn it on. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it comes right on. Wow. Look at that. This thing is working great. Extended Color Basic 1.0, baby. Copyright 1980. So yeah, there was several versions of Basic for this thing, if I remember correctly. This is going back to my childhood, so if I get it wrong, correct me in the comments down below. But there was Color Basic, and then I think Extended Color Basic might have been an early upgrade for the color computer, and then there was Disk Basic as well, and Disk Basic would have been run once you plugged in there was a disk drive cartridge that would go in the cartridge port over here on the side. When you plugged that in, that would give you an additional ROM that would run Disk Basic that give you the commands to access the floppy disk. So I know there was at least that many different versions of Basic, but the nice thing is it boots up into Basic so you can start typing programs right away. So let's just type a basic program that'll let us test the keys out. Uh-oh. Oh, that's interesting. What's going on here? So I have keys, but I don't have, oh, I've got some numbers. Okay. There we go. There's the numbers. Maybe there's a flaky cable in here or something. Let's just see. Okay, 0 is not working. So let's do 11. Print, retro, hack, shack. And then we can do 12. Go to 11. A little different this time with the program numbers. And then if we run that, of course, we get our working easiest basic program ever. Break is working. So yeah, for some reason, 0 is not working, but I think all the other keys are. And I noticed that these cables do have some writing on them. There we go. So, but I can't really read it. Maybe you can tell me what it says. CL something. C clear. I don't know. Can't read that one. Here's the other one. It's got some writing on it. Maybe that's another C. Maybe they wrote the other way on this one. And then this one also has some writing on it, but it also has this tape. And this one says O something. I don't know. I can't read it, but on the tape here, it clearly says either I or maybe Roman numeral 1. This tape's just about to fall off. So I, to me, makes me think that this might be intensity for like a Chroma Luma video kind of mod that might go into a monitor, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Let's open it up and see if we can get a clue what this mod is and what's rattling inside of here. And if you saw this thing hiding out over on the side of the screen and were wondering what this is just something I found at eWaste, one of those random things. It's got some really nice 3-way switches on it, and I'm just going to take these out of this board and save them for a future project or something. Just something I happened to see lying next to the dumpster and picked it up to see if I could remove those. Just in case you were wondering, just a random piece of e-waste. Ooh. Yeah. I wonder if they took the RF shield off and just kind of left it in there loose, whoever had this. I don't know. To get this thing off, it's pretty easy though. There are just a number of screws. You can see this has been opened because it has the broken seal, which voided our Radio Shack warranty. Uh-oh. They're not going to fix it for us anymore. Hey, look. Here's that missing foot. It's stuck in the back here. I'll have to clean that off and re-affix it to the foot place. Not all of the places where there could be screws have screws. I think this one and this one don't have screws. And maybe there's a bunch missing, actually. No screw there. Yeah, there's a screw there. Okay. Let's turn this back over, see if those screws come out. Yep. And they are different sizes, so you need to keep these separate. That one doesn't want to come out. There we go. And here's an inscription on the inside that I'm assuming somebody put here while they were doing QA testing. Looks like it says something like HK3 maybe, or RK3, and then a date of 7/14/1982. And there's what I assume is an @ symbol here, which is kind of interesting because this is way before email was common. So I don't know exactly what, I'm assuming that's an @ symbol. Not sure what that means, but I'm guessing this is probably from the QA team that was testing this thing out and not from the owner, but hey, you never know. So now we get our first look at this thing. And yeah, that's what was rattling. They just left this shield that normally goes over this section of the motherboard. They just left it off, didn't bother putting it back on. So that's what was rattling. This keyboard, got to be kind of careful because it has one of these flat flex connectors here. There we go. I think I got it off. Uh-oh. And there's a bodge wire here. So I can't even take off the keyboard all the way at this point. If you've never been inside one of these before, I think I went over it in greater detail in one of my other videos, but basically this side of the board is mostly for power, and then the computer side is over here. I think I've still got that old graphic. Maybe I can put it up here to show you what all these chips are. There's video chips up here, and there's kind of like a multi-purpose I/O kind of chip on here as well. And then all the memory is here. And this memory is configurable. When this thing first came out, I think the first one maybe only had 4K, but you could upgrade this all the way to 64K if you wanted to. And you had to set some jumpers in here to set that up correctly. But yeah, everything in here looks pretty standard, except up here, we have this mod. Let's take a closer look at this. I'm also noticing a bunch of resistors here that have been added, in most cases, directly to the chips, the top of the pins on the chips themselves. So there's one here, one here. There's some sort of a mod over here that's going on with another resistor. So somebody was definitely troubleshooting either some sort of inconsistency or problem, or trying to make the picture look better, or the game, something work somewhere in here. So somebody had a lot of love for this because they went to the trouble of at least trying to put in some mods. There's a couple more bodge wires down here connecting the top of one of these pins over here, either to the board or this socket over here. And again, we already saw the keyboard mod. So yeah, heavily loved. And I remember when I was using this computer in the early days, you could go to computer clubs. There was a lot of Radio Shack computer clubs, and they'd have TRS-80s, the original TRS-80s there. They'd have TRS-80 color computers. When those came out, people would be bringing in their favorite mods to do with these things. I mean, there was a whole community really that sprang up around, and sometimes there'd be representatives there from Radio Shack, like service technicians and stuff, that would be helping people. I went to a couple of those when I was pretty young, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that. So I didn't understand it all at the time, but I just thought it was cool how people would be sharing. And a lot of times you'd find out about one of these mods like this at one of those user groups or computer clubs. And they'd be like, oh yeah, if you add a little resistor here, maybe you need a little bit of pull up on this thing, blah, blah, blah. And you'd find out about this, or maybe even this video mod, which is obviously a video mod now that I can see where it's located at those clubs. So that's kind of something that's very nostalgic for a lot of people, and kind of wish those were still around. And I guess they are in the way of VCF conventions and so forth. I guess that's kind of replaced the computer clubs, at least for most of us. All right, so here's a closer look at the mod itself. And yes, indeed, I actually did a whole video where I tried to get better video quality out on the color computer, the color computer 1. And so I remember that this chip up here is where the video signal information exits. And you can see there's 4 wires attached here. At least I think they're all attached. Yes. Those 4 wires come off this chip, and then they go into this DIY board that's been probably like held on to the top of the RF modulator with some double stick tape or something. And then there's this connector over here, which I believe is connected to the video output. There's 3 wires here that go into the RF modulator. And I believe one of these, I think the closest one is the audio signal. And I think the next one over is the basically composite video. You can come right off of that, I think, and go into the composite input on a TV, and you'll see something. The quality won't be maybe as good as it could be, but you will get a signal. So well, the other thing, look, this is broken. This is busted. So whatever this mod was, it's not going to work. It looks like it's supposed to go in right there and be soldered on the other side of this board. And this is, dun, 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 this is broken. So, and then you can see there's the 3 wires going out. So I'm going to do a little research in some of the old magazines and see if I can figure out exactly what this is. And then we'll fix this wire and see if whatever it is still working. Maybe it is some sort of a Chroma Luma type of mod. Who knows? And just like that, folks, as easy as a Google search away, I think I have found the mod that this is. This is called the Other Bob's Composite Video Schematic, or composite mod. And you can see there's several connections that this provides, or several outputs that this provides. It provides an audio out, a monochrome out, and a composite out. Now, I was able to recognize it pretty quickly just from what's on this schematic, because we saw those 4 connections that are going over to that chip, which is U6. And here are the 4 connections coming in. And then there was, 3 outputs, and there's 3 outputs here. So it was pretty recognizable. Also, I just looked at the number of transistors that were on the mod and the number of transistors in the schematic. So it's pretty clear this is an Other Bob's composite video. And even more so, you can see there was a board design for this, and the traces on this particular board match up almost exactly, well, they do match up exactly with what we have on this particular mod. So you'll notice this big ground connection that's running over. It has these 2 boobs here, or whatever you want to call that shape. I don't know. And when you look at the mod itself, there's the boob shape there, and the 3 mods, and everything just lines up exactly. So I think we've got a winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. We know what this is now. If you want to create your own PCBs with interesting traces on them, look no further than the sponsor of today's episode, PCBWay. PCBWay offers low-cost, high-quality PCB manufacturing and a whole lot more. They offer flexible and rigid-flexible PCBs. They offer surface mount assembly. They offer high-density PCBs with up to 60 layers. They offer aluminum PCBs, and they also offer custom metal and plastic parts that need to be CNC milled or 3D printed. So check out PCBWay for all your PCB manufacturing needs, and I thank them for their support of the Retro Hack Shack. So this connection here is actually should be the audio connector. This should be the audio signal that's coming up. And I think initially it was going into this little hole there on the PCB, but I can just connect that directly to this leg of that resistor. And this is supposed to be a diode. Perhaps this was sold as a kit, and this person bought it and hooked it up, and over time the audio connector came out. I don't know, but that's what that should be. Whew, stinky vintage computer smell when you solder the stuff on there. Just gonna put a little fresh solder there. I'm gonna go left-handed here for the win. And there we go. Nice and tight. That should work as long as everything else is working. Who knows? Maybe some of these transistors are busted. But now we can go ahead and test this thing out. And now I know exactly what these are supposed to be as well, so I can relabel them. Now this one that said I on it is supposed to be the audio out. So I'm going to take that tape off. Not sure why it said I or Roman numeral 1. This is supposed to be audio. This one is supposed to be monochrome. So we'll just go with mono for now. And then this last one is composite. So we'll go with comp. These are just temporary. If I keep this like this, I'll probably put labels on them that are a little bit more permanent. But for now, at least I won't get confused as to what those are supposed to be. So I've got these connected to yellow for video, red for audio, white for monochrome, which makes sense in my mind. So now I've got the composite, should be color composite and audio hooked up. So I need to plug in the system. Might as well hook up the keyboard just in case we need it. Oh, and I said I was going to see if there was anything about this keyboard that would have said if it was Radio Shack or otherwise. I don't see like a Radio Shack catalog number on this. There are a few numbers on it, but I'm guessing that the bodge here would have been added because this was aftermarket. Whether it was sold from Radio Shack or not, it may have required that little, maybe that's a ground connection or something like that to go over here. So I think we can safely say this was added after the fact. All right, there we go. Blue looks all washed out on the screen. So just keep in mind, this blue is dark blue to my eye sitting here, but oh well. All right, if this is truly working, we should get a nice bright green screen. And we do. Look at that. Wow. Color composite, and it is much crisper, even though we're still on the small CRT here. It is crisper than the RF. Not a ton, but it definitely is crisper. It definitely is working. Let's go ahead and turn the volume up. Oh, it is up already. Let's go ahead and see if we can get some sound out of this. If I remember this command okay, we should get some sound here. Now, I heard it, but it wasn't very loud. Let me see if I can turn this up. Okay, this is turned up way more than it normally would be. Here's the sound again. So we are definitely getting sound, but it's super low. So perhaps there's something wrong here with this setup. And let's see if the monochrome is working. There's the color composite. Let's plug in the monochrome. Yep, there we go. Wow, that's really sharp. I can see if you were using this to do a lot of typing, this would be really useful for you because this is super clear. It's kind of a gray, and you're getting a kind of a, you can see the colors don't come across very well, obviously, since we've got monochrome on. That is really nice for typing. And if you had a nice crisp monitor, this would really save your eyes from squinting at those letters, because the letters themselves, here we are back at the color screen. There is kind of some blurring around these letters. So that would get, you would develop a little bit of eye strain, I think. I know I sure did, typing in those long basic programs over several hours at a time. So yeah, having that monochrome mode would really save your eyes a lot of trouble. While we have this up, I went ahead and just to see how much memory was in here, it looks like this is a upgraded 32K version, because it's when I did print mem, I couldn't remember the command, print mem, it came up with 24,871 bytes, but you got to remember basic is already loaded and using that much memory. So this is the amount of free memory that is available after extended color basic's been loaded. So that leads me to believe that this is a 32K model. I'm not sure why there's a capacitor here instead of a diode. Maybe different versions of the schematic, or maybe someone decided they were going to put a capacitor in here for buffering or something to make the sound better. Don't know, but when I was in here playing, I actually found out what the problem was, and it was as simple can be, which was just that the connection, there must be some corrosion on either this alligator clip or on the terminal, the lead there that's coming into, that's carrying the sound signal into the RF modulator. Because all I did was I came in here and was playing around with this and touched this, and you can see we got the sound back and it's very loud. And now my volume, my volume was up to 40 before so I could hear it. And now, of course, it's super loud. So yeah, all it was is a bad connection. And the more I've played with this, the better it is. But I can still get it to come in and out. And so, while this is simple for people to do who don't know how to solder, I'm actually going to take this off and solder directly from the wire to here so that this won't happen again in the future. Because that corrosion, whatever's on there, is just going to build up. And then we won't have this problem, hopefully, ever again. And before we're completely done, need to fix this little foot that came off. A little bit of double stick tape. And that should take care of that quite nicely. And before I can put that color computer through its final paces, something came in just now that's actually related to that. And that is a new sign to go on my garage door. So let's open up this thing and take a look at it real quick. I want to be careful not to hurt this thing. I did take it out of the cardboard packaging. There we go. Gotta say, they've packaged this up really nicely. And there you can kind of get a good view of it. It is my new Radio Shack sign. that's going to be in the background of my videos on the door. So I did one already that was a reproduction of the Computer Chronicles sign that they had in the background of their early shows. And then I went ahead and got, they stuck this. Hopefully that's not going to, oh no, okay, that comes up. And I've been trying to think of other things that I could put back here just to kind of cover up the garage door in the background and make it feel a little bit more, I don't know, fun and have some interesting things to look at in the background. So I've got the Computer Chronicles sign. Now I've got a Radio Shack sign. And I'm kind of curious what other signs would be good to put on the door back there. I need at least one more. Maybe I could do 2 or 3 just to have some fun. So what do you think? What other signs like this that would be vintage and period for the stuff that I like to work on should I print up and put on the door back there? Let me know in the comments below. And the panels in my garage door are a little bit smaller than 2 feet by 4 feet, which is what they print this on. So I've got to trim this down a little bit so it'll fit. Measure twice, cut once. And of course the graphic is offset so that once I trim this down, it'll be centered when I'm done. All right, I'm using command strips here to hang this with. And they seem to hold, this is just foam board, so it's super light, which is really nice, but it's still pretty rigid. And it's just a little smaller than the opening so that when I open the garage door here, it won't kink on me and come off. At least that's the goal. Let's see how I did with my sizing. Gotta get this level. Looks good. And just kind of press down. Kind of hard on all these. Make sure they get a really good bond with that tape. And there we go. That should do it. And I've got enough room down on the bottom to add another one. And of course I can add another one up at the top here. All right. Looking good. Computer Chronicles and now Radio Shack. Nice. All right. Well, with everything working now, I was able to write out a little label here. Originally, I had not sure about this mod and the fact that it rattles. Now I can update this with 32K composite mono mod. I'll put that on there so I don't forget next time I get this out because it is a beauty. And we can play a game on this now with the Coco SDC, which is a great mod for loading games from SD cards onto your Coco. Highly recommend it. Although mine is misshapen. I've got the focus set on the TV, so I can't pull this close, but I don't know if you can see over time, mine has warped to some degree. It's literally like bent, and I don't remember ever doing anything to it or leaving it out in the sun. So maybe I'll have to 3D print a new case for this or something, but hopefully you can turn this off and it should fit right in there. Yep, there we go. Let's turn it on and see if it loads. The SD card wasn't plugged in all the way. Let's try this again. There we go. So now we can play one of my absolute favorite games of all time, especially on this platform. Whoops. I need to go over to the bin file and load that. So this is exactly the computer and the setup that I would have used to play this. Now, interestingly enough, can you see that this is green here? I don't remember that being green. What you're seeing here with the text is the NTSC artifact colors, which is one of the reasons you would want to play this in mono mode. But I played this a ton of times just like this with the NTSC artifacts on anyway. I didn't really care. Yeah, I don't like that actually over composite. Let's go ahead and switch to mono mode. This is the demo that's running, by the way, behind me right now. Look how much clearer that is in mono mode. This was my preferred way to play it. It was much easier to read, but anyway, I know this like the back of my hand. So to start the game, you just hit a key. It'll go ahead and load it up. And while this is preparing, you can go ahead and start doing stuff. So I'm going to pull left torch, use the left, muscle memory's coming back. Pull right sword. And now I am ready to go. And I did a whole video on playing Dungeons of Daggereth, so you can find that on my channel. It's one of my favorite games of all time. So much fun. So many hours spent. Uh-oh, something going to be behind this door. Get ready to attack. Got him. Oh, these guys are awful at the beginning. They're so easy later on, but when they first come, they're awful. I'm not sitting down and it's giving me fits here. See if I can get this guy. you sit there and for too long and wait, they will attack you, of course. Oh, there we go. Move back. Now what I'm typing in, of course, are abbreviations. There's a torch on the ground, so I'm going to get left torch, reveal left, and you can use abbreviations for pretty much all of the words, and the words that might conflict with other ones, then you have to use 2 letters to abbreviate them, but it makes the whole game run a lot faster. I'm going to stow left, and that puts it in my backpack. There's a hidden door here somewhere. Move left. Where's that hidden door? There it is. Yeah, so then, there it is. That's where I like to camp out. Right in front of that hole in the ground there. I'll just sit on that hole and then just wait for all the monsters to come to me and attack them one at a time. There's a blob coming. He's the toughest thing on this level. So if you put stuff on the ground like that, when the blob comes, he'll have to pick up that first. There's no way I'm going to beat this guy. It's too early. Oh, I got him. Look at that. So he's got a higher level sword, which I can't really figure out what that is right now because I'm not powerful enough, but eventually I'll get a better sword. That's an iron sword instead of a wooden sword. Anyway, this game is so much fun. If you want to figure out how to play this, I go through kind of a tutorial and play the game, I think all the way through, cutting in and out, of course, so you don't have to sit here and watch me play for hours. But if you want to see that, I will link that video right up here in the corner. So go watch that video next. And thank you all for watching. Thanks for the likes, the subscribes, and I just really appreciate it. And let me know if you have any more suggestions for what posters I should have made up and put in the background next on the channel. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
End of line.